Hey, what's up guys? Joe here, and today I have a very special tutorial. I'm going to show you guys how to build your own After Effects plugin. So that's going to be pretty cool. A little prerequisites before you start. You are going to need to know a little bit about C++ coding. Okay, if you're familiar with like Python coding, you probably have enough background to figure this out as I show you the very basics of what's going on. I'm definitely not, this is not going to be a C++ tutorial. How to write code in C++, and if you have no coding knowledge, this is probably not going to be the tutorial for you because you're going to need to know a little bit about how to code in some version, some format. But if you understand coding, you understand what variables are, what things like that are, how functions work, stuff like that, then you should be good to go and be able to figure this out pretty easily. Well, with a little bit of Googling, as we all do. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So this is probably going to be like a 3-part series. I think it's going to probably take like 3 videos to get all the way to where we're actually building a plugin for you guys. Sorry, I'm going to open this real quick while I'm speaking. This first video is going to be an overview, and we're going to download and install Visual Studio, which is a coding program that you're going to need to write in some of this stuff, to write the code, to see some of the code that exists. After that, we're going to download the After Effects SDK, which is basically a few plugins that Adobe has decided to package up that gave us the code, the back code to, that we can look at and use and manipulate and make our own plugins from, which we're definitely going to want to do because there's a skeleton plugin in there, which is a very bare bones, hey, this is what you need in order to make a plugin work, which is really going to help us out. It's like a template. We're going to set up a Windows environment, which is going to help us do some things later. It's going to make our workflow a little faster. Sorry, excuse me while I click through this a bit. I just want to show you guys something here. So if we go down to sample plugins and go to skeleton, we're basically right now going to be putting this together. So we have a plugin that says skeleton. If you right click and go to about me, it says skeleton 1.0 and some junk about Adobe or whatever. We can change all of this stuff. All of that stuff's going to be customizable. We have these 2 parameters. One is gain. This thing is called a float slider. That's going to be important later, but just for now, you can slide this around. You can move these digits. It'll adjust the gain. And then we have a color picker, which unfortunately at this moment doesn't do anything. But later on, we will make that color picker do something. We'll add some other parameters like a checkbox and a button to click. And when you click the button, it's going to say, cool, you clicked the button, stuff like that. And we'll be able to change the name of this plugin. You'll be able to change where the plugin lives inside these folders here, so you don't have to have it living in sample plugins if you don't want to. All that stuff is way down the road. For now, we need to get this set up, which is definitely going to be one video by itself because it's obnoxious to get all this set up. So without further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and start doing that. I am going to go a little bit out of order of this sheet here. I'm going to go ahead and just set up these Windows environment first, just because we can just knock that out. Once it's done, you don't ever have to do this again. So just bear with me real quick while we do this. If you go down here to search and you type in env environment, okay, so that's what I was going to type. But if I type in env, it should say edit system environment variables. I'm going to click that, and that pops up this system properties. And if you go here, it says environment variables. I'm going to click that. It's going to open up this, okay? We're all going to do something with this in a second. But I also want you to see that if you type in environment down here, full word, environment, this other one pops up that says edit system environment variables. You could also click this and it'll pop straight up to this window, which is fantastic. So now that we have this up, remember I clicked environment variables to get here. I'm going to delete that and delete that because we're going to remake those right now so you guys can also make it. I have this little notepad. This section right here will probably be down in the description, just so you guys know where I got this, what these folders are called and stuff. What we're doing right now is setting up 2 things. We're setting up an After Effects plugin build directory. So this is saying, where do we want our plugins to be built? When we use Visual Studio, which is this, you're going to get that in a second. Okay, we're going to download that in a second. When we build our plugin, where do we want it to be built to? That folder is going to be in File Explorer. Down in local disk C, you go to your C drive. Sorry, I don't know what it said that all the way. Go to Program Files, go to Adobe, and then if you have the version I have, which is 2022, it'll be in After Effects 2022. Or there's 2 places that you can build these plugins. I'm going to show you where I'm going to build it, but I'm going to show you where else you could build it if you want to. You're going to navigate into Adobe After Effects folder, go to Support Files, go down to Plugins. And then you can build yours into here if you want to. I would actually make another folder called My Builds, which is what I did here. What's in that? Oh, a bunch of junk. Okay, yeah. So you can make a folder called My Builds, and you could build it into that. You can literally, I'd open this up, and you can come up here, click, and just copy this whole folder path. Okay, so that's how I got this here. That's how I got to here. Obviously, mine's �11𝗑𝗫 because that's the other folder, which is where I really suggest that you build your plugin to. So let me back up a second here. Go back to Adobe. So now I'm in C Drive, Program Files, Adobe. And then instead of going into the After Effects folder, if you go down to Common, go to Plugins, go to 7.0, �11𝗑𝗫. In here, I have another folder called My Builds. And this is where I really suggest you build your plugins because this is, it's just better. It's better all around. Just trust me. So you can come up here, right click, copy, Control C to copy that. And then that's exactly what I have here. So if you just paste that right there, you're good to go. The other thing here I have here is an AE After Effects run path. Okay, so this is saying when we go to debugging, so when we're testing our plugin, after we write what we want and we go to test it, what program do we need to run in order to test our plugin? And of course, that's going to be After Effects because we have an After Effects plugin. So we want to run After Effects. In order to do that, you're going to go into you go to C Drive again, go to Program Files, go to Adobe, go into the After Effects folder this time, and then you should have a shortcut in here for After Effects. You can right click on that, go to Properties, and then right here where it says Target, it actually tells you, it gives you the path to the exe file. So we're going to copy this whole thing. We don't want these quotation marks. I'm not sure if you can see them. They might be kind of blurry, but we're going to copy that whole thing. So I'm going to Control C, come over here, and then you're basically going to paste that there. Sorry, I'm pasting these into Notepad. That's just so I can copy and paste those again here in a second. When you go to your system properties, this environment variables thing that we had before, we're going to click New, and we have a variable name. Okay, so that is going to be this AE plugin build directory. This variable name can be anything you want. You can call this whatever. I only called it this because that's what it is. It's an After Effects plugin build directory. The only thing you can't do is have spaces, or you might be able to have spaces. I don't really know enough about this to know that, but none of these other ones have spaces. So I'm going to stick with you probably can't have spaces. Once you have that, what is the build directory that we want? Again, that's that �11𝗑𝗫 folder with My Builds. So you made that new folder called My Builds. We're going to copy this folder, and we're going to go to variable value and paste that in there. So that's my program files, Adobe, Common, Plugin, 7.0, �11𝗑𝗫, My Builds. Boom, it's all good. So you hit OK, and then bang, it adds it up there, okay? Again, this is really gonna make things easier for us later, and once we do this section, it's gone. We're done with it. So let's go ahead and add the other one. So we're gonna hit New again. Variable name on this one is gonna be AE run path. Again, you can call this whatever you want. That's just what it's called for me. Shoot, I must not have copied it. And the variable name for this one, again, is the exe file. So we need After Effects to run. So we need the actual shortcut to After Effects or the application itself, some kind of exe file. And you're going to paste that in there. And then once it's in, once that's in the variable value, hit OK. And now you have that up there too. Hit OK. You can close this, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. We're done with that step. We're done with that forever. That's all the way done. Now, you might say, what the heck did I just do that for? That's where we're going to need Visual Studio. Okay, so let's go to Google. Come up here and type in Visual Studio. Hit enter. And somewhere in Google, you should probably get one from Microsoft.com here, visualstudio.microsoft. And we're going to go to this. And that is going to be on the Visual Studio website here. And there's a few different ones. By the way, I'm doing this for Windows. It's probably really similar for Mac, but I'm not getting into Mac. I don't really use Mac, so sorry if you're on a Mac, but you could probably follow this tutorial along if you're on Mac. There's two things here. There's Visual Studio and there's Visual Studio Code. That's something a little different. I do have that installed down here, but it's for some other usage. We're using Visual Studio for this. Okay, so download Visual Studio, go to the Community 2022, click on this, and there's somewhere in here. Oh, yeah, it just automatically starts downloading. So it downloaded an installer. If we go navigate now to our downloads folder. Shut up, Norton. Let me delete these because I'm just going to do that with you guys here in a second. I'm going to open up this. I already have this installed, so I'm not actually going to install it, but I will show you what to click to install because it is a bit confusing, especially if you never did this before. So when you open it, you're not going to have this option. It's going to open right to this page here, and none of these are going to be checked. You're going to have to check desktop development with C++. So you're going to check that, and it's going to ask you for, mine says 0, but you're going to be downloading like 8 gigs of crap. You're going to need to install all the things that are default checked. You can install other stuff if you want to, but this is the only one you're going to need for After Effects plugin builds. Hit this button down here. It should say install while downloading. Let that thing run through. It'll probably take like 20 minutes or so, maybe less than that. Then you should have Microsoft Visual Studio installed on your computer. And to make sure, you can go in here. Mine pops up right here in the most used, but it's probably down this list. Next thing we need to do is download the After Effects SDK. So we're going to go back to Google, go type in After Effects SDK, hit enter, and that will bring us to one that says adobe.io. So we're going to click on this link, and then in here you should pop up to this website here, adobe.io, and then down a little bit there's a get the SDKs, and then there is a download resources button. When you click that, if you're really into like building these plugins and stuff, and you really want to get into this, you can download different SDKs for all of their programs. So that should be pretty fun for you if that's what you're into. But for us, we're just going to stick with the After Effects one because we're only building After Effects plugins. Click the View Downloads button. And then again, we're in Windows. Okay, so there is Mac. I'm only sticking with the Windows one. I'm going to my version of After Effects, which is 2022. And then the download version, I'm going to get the most up-to-date SDK, which is, in this case, the October 2021 one. Download this. Now download a zip folder. It should be pretty quick because it's only 4 megs. And you can close Chrome because I'm pretty sure we're done with it. In my downloads folder, this is that zip file. I'm going to extract that. It's going to take a second. And then when I open this, to show you show you guys what's in here, there's the After Effects SDK guide. Okay, let me open that really quick for a second. And this whole guide only has one page, and it has a link. So if we click the link's going to bring us to a website, which is the After Effects SDK guide. It's their up-to-date one, their newest one or whatever. It's online now. And you're really going to want to read this thing. I know most of the time people are like, oh, you could read the guide, read the directions. Nobody wants to read directions, but honestly, that's the only way I've found to be able to answer questions while I'm like, oh man, how the heck do you do this? This is the only place I've found with valuable answers, and even then they didn't even like explain some of the stuff, which is pretty annoying. So that's there, and you're really going to want to use this thing, but I'll try to show you as much as I can to get you started at least. So for now, if we go into examples, we have a couple of different folders here. Might be wondering, what is all this stuff? There are things that I will reference for now, but later on down the road we'll get into it. There's going to be 3 videos, I think it's the plan for this. So we'll cover some more of this stuff later. But for now, the only one you really have to know is the template folder. If you go in there, there's a skeleton. That's our skeleton plugin, our project. This is actually like some of the project files for that. The skeleton plugin project is the project we're going to be working with in order to, start building our plugin, which we're going to make it whatever we want to. So right before we get into that, I do want to do one thing real quick. We're going to, what is this other folder I have? Oh. I'm going to open up this drive here. This is my E drive. This is just a storage drive I have. You guys may or may not have one. I'm just going to put this After Effects SDK. Damn it. Hang on. I'm going to put this After Effects SDK, the whole folder. So if I go to downloads, grab this whole After Effects SDK folder, I'm going to drive it right into the main directory of this drive. I didn't want to do this on my C drive. You probably don't want to do it on your C drive either. But if you have to, you can put it wherever. It could stay in your downloads folder. It's just annoying to click through 8,000 folders to get this stuff. So that's why I have this E drive, okay? That's the only thing I'm doing with that. So I'm going to close all these folders. We're done with it now, so you can close that if you want to. Next, let's see. So we did 1, 2, and 3. That's probably going to be the end of this first video. No. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. We're going to keep going. Next thing we're going to do is set up our skeleton project so that we can have it ready to go for our actual build. Once we get to the let's build it, that's when I'll end the video. So this might be a little bit long. Sorry, guys. Just before we start coding, I do want to do one thing. Right now I'm in my local storage drive in this After Effects SDK, examples, and the template folders right here. I'm going to right click, make a new folder, and call it My Builds. It's important that you build this folder in this it has to be in this examples folder. Okay, so you don't want to go into one of these and make a my builds folder because some of the resources are dependent on this folder structure. So what we want to do is grow into template and grab the skeleton skeleton folder. You're going to highlight that, Control C to copy it, go back to examples, go into my builds, paste it in here, and I'm going to right click on this. In fact, you can just hit F2. I'm going to rename it. F2 lets you rename it, by the way. And I'm going to rename it to called, I don't know, tutorial plugin, tutorial PI. Yeah, that's fine. Tutorial. I'm just going to call it tutorial. PI is going to be too complicated. So this is going to be called tutorial. It's going to be my tutorial plugin. Okay. And again, that is in examples, my build tutorial. Okay. And that was the skeleton. And if you open up this, it should all still be all these files, which all still say skeleton. That's fine. We're going to change that stuff right now. Now that we're done with that, you can come down here to your search bar and type in Visual Studio, and you'll have Visual Studio 22 pop up, 2022 or whatever version you downloaded. Right click on that, and you're going to want to go to Run as Administrator. The reason we're running this as administrator is because when we build our plugin, it's going to be built into a folder that you need administrator rights to write or delete things from. So we need to be running in administrator mode so that when we write that file later on, we don't get an error saying we can't write it because we don't have the rights to write it. So that's just going to alleviate that. Pretty much anytime you go to build a plugin for After Effects, you're going to have to run Visual Studio in administrator mode. So once we do that, we're going to open up this project, go to local storage, go to After Effects, go to examples, go to my builds, go to tutorial, go to window. Now you see already we have like 17 folders we need to go into. So if you had put this into another, like if it was on your desktop, you probably have 8,000 folders to go through, which is pretty obnoxious. So click on a skeleton program project, hit open, and it's going to actually, if you want to do whatever, say, yeah, that's cool. It's fine. Turtle this down and open up the C++ file. Okay, so first things first, in here, this is all from Adobe. They already made us a template that can run a plugin that we're about to build right now. I do need to change one setting or a couple settings before we build it, but we're pretty close to being able to just build that skeleton plugin that I showed you in the very beginning. So let's just go ahead and change those settings and we'll build that just to make sure everything's up and running correctly so far. So if you click on skeleton right here, hold Alt and hit Enter, it'll open up skeleton property pages. If you're too lazy to remember keystrokes, you can click this little wrench and it'll open it up as well. And then if you go to General, the first thing you want to look at is Output Directory, and that should be set to, if we twirl this down and hit Edit, mine's already set to this plugin build directory. Remember we built that in the environments. If it's not to that, delete whatever's in there, go to Macros, and then go to AE Plugin Build, and again, that should be set to this Media Core folder that's in Adobe Common Plugin 7.0 should be Media Core, and then My Builds. You're going to double click this. It's going to pop it up here. Hit OK, and that's good to go. One thing I should have mentioned just a second ago is that you want to make sure on your configuration that you're set to all configurations. Okay, if you put this on one or the other, so if you go to debug, like for instance, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. Hit apply. Okay, now if I go to debug, that and if I go to release are the same thing. If I didn't do that, in fact, if I probably click on this one, no. Hold on, just trying to show you guys an example. Of course, there's no examples to be seen. It's great. Here we go. See how it says different options on all configurations? So you have this one that says multi-thread, and then debug says this. If you don't have this set to all configurations, you're not changing all of them. You're only changing one or the other, depending on which one you're on. So from General, you want to change that to the plugin directory build folder that we made. Then if you go to debugging and go to command, we have a target path. This is saying, what do we want to run when we build our plugin? And remember, we already made that as well. So you're going to delete this target path, go to macros, and we want to run After Effects.exe. That's why we made this one, AE run. Yours might be something different. Hit OK. Sorry, it didn't actually populate in there for some reason. Double click, hit OK. All right, cool, now we're in there. Remember, we're on all configurations again. Apply. Next thing we need to do is go down to C++. We're going to go into General. And then down here where it says treat warnings as errors. Errors? Treat them as errors. you want to hit no, hit apply on all configurations, and then go down to code generation, all configurations. And this one's really important. This one's actually going to be the one that's going to stop you from building if you don't change it. It's called struct member alignment. This has to do with when it packages up the plugin, how much memory is used for certain things. I'm not quite sure what it does. I'm not very familiar with C++, but I do know that this does make a difference. So change this down, go to default, hit apply, and hit OK. And actually by default, I think it's 1 byte. So if you know what that is and you know what it means, I think it's defaulting it to 1 instead of 4. Now, that's all good to go. We should be good to go. We can actually build this plugin. Let's go ahead and build it. If you go up here, there's a debugger. We should be building this into that media core folder, which is why we set that stuff up. So when I press play, it should go ahead and run After Effects for us because we set that up as well. And it does. You're probably going to want to go to a new project and just start a new project with a... Actually, I'll just go do that with you. So start a new project, make a new comp, whatever. And I'm going to hit Control-Shift-Y. I'm sorry, Control-Y. That's going to give me this comp. I'm sorry, this solid. Hit OK. So that's got a big white. White's not going to work. Damn it, I should have went with the other one. Sorry. Let's go with fill. Come on. There. Just make it this blue color for now. And if we go to Effect and go to Sample Plugins and then go down, you should have Sample Plugins now, and you should have Skeleton. If you don't have these two things, then you did something wrong. So go back to the beginning. So when I add that on, I can change the gain, which makes it go to white or not. And then they have this color picker, which doesn't do anything. So that's fantastic. But yeah, so now you should have that. You should have. This is pretty much like you just built your own plugin, so to say. Not really, but. It's a step. It's a stepping stone to it. The last thing I want to do, I know this video is running real long, but to end it, I want to change. We want to change this skeleton because right now our plugin's called skeleton. We want to name our skeleton something we want to call it, which in my case is just going to be like tutorial plugin. And so in order to do that, by the way, I will go through what a lot of this stuff is later on, but for now we have to get through the basics before we can get to the cool stuff. We're going to click on skeleton, hit F2 again, and that's going to allow us to change it. I'm going to change it to tutorial. Did I name it tutorial or tutorial plugin? Just tutorial. Okay, cool. So we're going to name that tutorial. In references, there shouldn't be anything in there. In external dependencies, this is a bunch of After Effects header files that make all of this plugin run. So you're not going to want to change any of this stuff ever. Like, I don't even think you should be going into it except to see what something is. In your header files, again, you have an AE folder, which is After Effects folder. More header files from After Effects in order to make the plugin run. You're not going to change any of that stuff, but you can reference it if you need to see what's in it. We have a skeleton dot header here. We're going to hit F2. We're going to change skeleton to tutorial. And then same thing with the other one underneath it. We're going to change this from skeleton strings. We're going to leave strings, but we're going to change skeleton to tutorial. Then we're going to go to resources, and we have this skeleton PIPL. Change just the skeleton part to tutorial. And then in resources down here, same thing, tutorial. Support code, we have some more After Effects things that we're not going to change. We're not going to do anything with those. We do have this skeleton here. We're going to change this to tutorial. And then we have the final one here. This is another tutorial strings. There's a few different strings files. One's a C++ file, that's what CPP means. And then there's a H, which is a dot header file. We'll get into that stuff in a little bit. But for now, just change them all to tutorial. One thing I do, up here we have a solution skeleton. I'm going to click that. F2, tutorial. Click on this. One thing we do need to do is make sure that everything actually changed to tutorial here. We do have some errors over here. We're going to get to that in a second. We're going to fix those. But for now, click on this. And then we want to look down here. And you have tutorial, 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 good, tutorial, tutorial. This one's still skeleton, so we need to change that one to tutorial. In the headers file, tutorial, tutorial, tutorial. I'm just checking to make sure all these say tutorial when they do. Tutorial, all good. Tutorial. Good. Tutorial. Tutorial. And again, you could have named this whatever you wanted. Could be Joe's awesome plugin if you want to call it that. That's a pretty good name, I think. But to make things simple, I'm just leaving it as tutorial. If you go over to here and you click into, put your cursor on skeleton here, and if you don't see that, it's because you didn't scroll down. Scroll down a little bit, put your cursor there, hit Control, Shift, and H. That is going to open up Find and Replace, and it's going to populate it with the word skeleton. We're going to change, and this is case sensitive, okay, so capital S, all small letters after that, capital T, and all little letters, lowercase, tutorial. We're just going to change all the skeletons to tutorial, and we want to make sure that match case is checked. We're going to look in the entire solution. We want to make sure that include external items is unchecked, because again, that is going to look in these files, and we don't want to do that. Include miscellaneous files, that's fine, whatever. All this is good to go now. Oh, look in entire solution. You want to twirl this down and make sure you're on entire solution, and you're going to hit replace all. I think this is going to do like 10 or 12. Yeah, 12. Hit OK, and then we'd want to delete this version of skeleton and type in all caps skeleton, and then we're going to type this in all caps, tutorial. So this is going to change all capital skeletons to all capital tutorials. Again, match case, entire solution. Do not check external items. That's fine. The include miscellaneous is fine. Hit replace all. This should be, did I not spell this right? There should have been like 20 of them. Skeleton. I must have missed a letter. Replace all. Yeah, 19. Hit OK. Close that, and now all of our errors should be gone. Yep, they're gone. This is mess. Okay, looking good. Hit Control Shift S. That is going to save everything for you. And before we do anything, let's go ahead and close this down. Close. If it says, do you want to save something? You absolutely want to save that thing. Whatever it said. If it said, do you want to save it? You say yes. We're going to go back to Visual Studio, right click, remember run it as administrator, open up a project, go to tutorial, win, and oh, I'm sorry, before we open this, so I'm going to close that for a second. Before we open that, we want to go into this folder. I'm in my local After Effects SDK, examples, my build tutorial, win. You'll see some of this stuff is still called skeleton. I'm going to rename these to be tutorial. Rename tutorial. Rename tutorial. All right, cool. Now all that's changed. I'm gonna go back over here to me. Close this for a second. Right click on Visual Studio, right click, run as administrator. Open project. Go to win. Go to tutorial, remember this project file, hit open, and if you did everything right, and you twirl down this, it should look like this. If it looks like a jumbled mess where it's missing folders and things, you did something wrong, and unfortunately you got to go rename all that stuff all over again. But hopefully yours looks like this, and you can twist this down, see tutorial.h, tutorial strings, tutorial CPP, what else we got? These resource files here. Everything should be good to go now. So, one last check before we end this video. What are we, probably like an hour? Good Lord. 31 minutes. Okay, it's not bad. Run this real quick. This should not be making a skeleton plugin. This should now be making a tutorial plugin. And I'm going to show you guys where to go to change the names and stuff later. But for now, as long as we get here, we're good. So I'm just going to open up this file again. Click on that. Effect. Go down to Sample Plugins. And we should have a tutorial plugin. Look at that. Click on it. It's still working. Still got a color box that doesn't do anything. It's fantastic, man. Look at this. You're done. Why don't you just go like make $1 million and sell that plugin? Cool. All right, guys. I'm going to end this video here because I'm tired of talking. I need some water, and I'll start up the next one, and that will be where we get into the codes of this thing. So see you guys around. Goodbye.